Today I'm going to be talking about menopause and some of the ways that it can affect your hair. And if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Michelle. I'm a licensed hairstylist with over 20 years of experience. And on this channel, I use those 20 years of experience to help you have healthy, happy hair. Which brings me to my disclaimer. And that is that I am not a medical professional. This video is not intended to be medical advice. I cannot give medical advice. All I can do is share with you the knowledge that I have from being a hairdresser and then also my experience, which spanned 20 years. I saw a lot of my clients go through various changes throughout their lives, including menopause, and I can share with you my observations based on that experience. Plus, I can talk about my own experience as someone who is currently going through perimenopause. This video is to merely discuss the issues that you might be finding with your hair and to give you some tips on how to mitigate some of these effects. Let's get started with the big one, and that is hair loss. Many women will experience hair loss throughout perimenopause and menopause. Now, this could be temporary, but it could also be permanent. And I can't make any sort of guarantee that you will be the one that gets to experience it as a temporary phenomenon versus a permanent one. One thing that I can say to you though is that not everyone has hair loss related to menopause or perimenopause. The best way to determine whether or not you're going to experience this would be to look at your close female relatives and take a look at how menopause went for them, and especially with their hair. If they are thinner or have thinned and have never gotten it back, then that could mean that that's what's going to happen with you, but it is not a foregone conclusion because we're all different and therefore everything will affect us differently. Now, when it comes to hair loss, there are a few treatments that you can try, and one time-tested treatment is to use a minoxidil type product, so like Rogaine. This is a product that actually does work and it will grow back hair that you have lost. The downside is that you have to keep using it. As soon as you stop using it, you will go back to losing all of that hair that you regained. And now I know that there is kind of a light therapy. This is a new type thing, and you kind of wear a helmet on your head and it emits like a red light, I think. I don't know. I have seen it in a couple of different videos that were done by women who are going through hair loss with menopause, and they both had really good results with using this light therapy. So that is something you could look into as well. Although I believe that the downside for that is the cost. I think it's pretty expensive to get that. I don't have personal experience with either of these issues. Hair loss really hasn't been an issue that I've been dealing with, but I will talk to you later about the issue that I have been dealing with all of this. Something else that you can do is to make sure that you are getting all of the vitamins and minerals and nutrients and all of those things that your body needs in order to just be healthy overall, because your hair does need those to grow. So if you're deficient in any of those things, that can cause hair loss as well. So for example, like anemia can cause hair loss, and being deficient in certain vitamins and minerals will cause it as well. So just make sure that you're getting all of the nutrients and everything that you need. Get blood work done, make sure that all of your levels look good, that you aren't anemic. Your thyroid is where it should be, because that's another thing that can cause hair loss. So just do a really good medical workup just to make sure that there aren't any other causes of hair loss that could be fixed potentially by solving some of those issues. Also, be sure that you are looking after your mental health, because stress can most definitely cause hair loss. So you don't want to get all stressed out about the potential of losing your hair when that may not even be in the cards for you anyway, because stress could most definitely then cause the thing that you're worried about, which is losing your hair. So before going into a panic, just make sure everything is all in order and wait to see if you actually have something to panic about. Now, to move away from the things that would help grow your hair back, there are some things that you can do if you are experiencing thinning hair to give it a more fuller appearance. and that is to switch to some volumizing products and some thickening products. And those two things are sometimes a little bit different. So the volumizing will definitely help give your hair a little bit of lift, a little bit of volume, a little bit of fluff, versus a thickener is actually going to make your hair strands a little bit thicker, and they do that by just coating the surface to make the diameter of your hair strand a little bit larger. And doing this gives the appearance of having a little bit more hair because the strands are a little bit thicker. So if you're using some of these thickening products and these volumizing products, and especially if you're using them together, it can make your hair a little bit fuller and make it appear like you have more hair than what you do. So another thing you can do is also switch up your part line. This can help by giving you a little bit of lift and volume up at your roots, but also that tends to be where you'll really notice some of the hair loss and thinning is at your part line. So if you don't have a very distinct part line, you're really not going to see as much scalp as easily as when you do have a distinct part line. So switching it up a little bit like that and just not having a part or just allowing it to fall wherever it does, kind of like what I do. I don't really have too much of a part. I let it go wherever it wants to go. And this also helps to give me a little bit of lift and volume up on top versus having an actual part. And you can also root clip your hair while you're styling. And I do have a video all about it right up here, or is it here? Anyway, I'm gonna put a card up here somewhere to a video I did all about root clipping, which shows you how to do it without creating any kind of separations. Now, not having those separations is key, because if you have those separations and you can see your scalp, it's going to make your hair look a little bit thinner, versus if you don't have those separations, then it's going to help kind of hide that thinning a little bit. The next way that it can impact your hair is through your hair's texture. And when I'm talking about texture, I am meaning how large or small the diameter of each individual hair strand is. So if you have very small hair strands that are not easily seen or not seen at all by the naked eye, you have very fine hair. If you have hair strands that are very easily seen by the naked eye, then your strands are coarse. And now coarse doesn't necessarily mean rough. You can actually have very soft, smooth, and slippery, coarse hair. That's what I happen to have. But some people do have rougher and more wiry, coarse hair. It just doesn't mean that that's how it is for everybody. When we're talking coarse, we're talking the size of the diameter of the hair strand. And this might be happening because of all these changes going on, but also because you might be noticing a few more gray hairs than what you had seen prior. Or you might actually be getting some gray hairs. And gray hairs can be a different texture than the rest of your hair. However, not always. Sometimes they're the same texture. Another myth is that all gray hair is wiry and coarse. That's not true. You can have very fine, very soft, very feathery gray hair. Everybody's different, so it could be different for everybody, and it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you have gray hair, it's a different texture than the rest of your hair. But all of that being said, it is possible to notice that your hair just feels completely differently. Maybe it feels very super soft and slippery and it gets very over conditioned very easily, weighed down very easily, or you're noticing that it just feels a lot rougher, more wiry, it's less manageable than it used to be. And all of these things can happen due to your hormones and all of the craziness that's going on during this time. And now these changes can be temporary, but they could also be permanent changes. I can't really make any kind of guarantees here. I've seen it go both ways with previous clients that I had. So it's nothing that I can guarantee you, and I can't tell you that it's going to go back to normal, because this could be your new normal. If you find that your hair seems to be a lot finer than normal, or slipperier than normal, or just lacking in volume, you can try some of the other things that I mentioned previously for thinning hair. They're going to work just as well. Or you could use things like volumizing sprays or sea salt sprays, which are going to add a little bit of texture to your hair and also give a little bit of volume so that your hair isn't quite so soft and slippery. It'll also help to hold on to curl a little bit more, and in some cases, depending on the ingredients that it has, it might actually help to bounce up the curl. And the ingredient that does that the most is going to be magnesium sulfate. It tends to temporarily shrink the bonds in the hair and give it a little bit extra of a bounce to your hair. And if you're finding that you're dealing with a lot of really rough, wiry strands, one of the best things for that is actually products with silicone. And I know that silicone has gotten kind of a bad rap for building up on your hair and completely damaging your hair. It doesn't build up on your hair any more than natural oils and butters do. Those also build up on your hair, as long as you're making sure that you are shampooing your hair with an actual shampoo and not co-washing. You're going to be able to get those silicones out. And then as long as you're using a clarifying shampoo or a chelating shampoo every so often in order to remove all of the buildup, then it isn't going to be a problem there either. And it also kind of depends on the quality of the product. Higher quality products, the silicone is not going to be one that's going to just make your hair feel like it's plastic and covered in a ton of silicone. And another thing that silicones can do is kind of fill in any gaps in your cuticle that might have occurred either because of damage from heat or from color treating or from bleach or something like that, or just normal wear and tear as your hair gets longer and the more things it's exposed to, especially multiple washings and dryings, because when your hair gets wet, it swells, which causes the cuticle to lift slightly, and then as it dries, it goes back to normal and your cuticle comes down somewhat. But after repeated washings where the cuticle is being lifted and lowered each time, it starts to get to the point where it doesn't lay quite as flat and smooth as what it used to, and sometimes they will flake off. So all of those little gaps that get left behind, the silicone is able to fill those in, and it can also fill in some of those rougher, bumpier spots along your hair. So silicone is really great for any type of wiry and unmanageable hair. And then it's also my understanding that hemisqualane is another ingredient that mimics silicone and does something similar. So it's a silicone alternative. So you can look for products that contain that as well if you're experiencing some wiry hair. And right along with that texture change, another thing that can change is your curl pattern. And you could in fact go from completely straight hair to having wavy or curly, or you could go in the other direction and go from curly hair to straight hair, wavy hair to straight hair, or tighter curls to looser curls. Or you can have kind of a mixed bag of your hair doesn't know what the heck it's doing, which is basically what mine is doing right now. So a while back, I had noticed that what was growing out was tighter, and as that grew out, I had tighter curls on the ends. Then I noticed that what was growing out was a lot looser, and in some spots even straight. And so that's been growing out, and now I have looser curled ends. And I have noticed again that I have some tighter up at the top with the looser on the bottom. So I think it's getting tighter again. And here's some other examples. You can see the curls are looser and tighter up and through here. Or I don't know, maybe you can't see that so well on camera, but my hair has just been doing, I don't know what it's doing. My curl pattern is constantly changing. My hair is definitely softer and slipperier than it has ever been, even though it's always been a bit soft and slippery. It's even worse now. And so that is my current struggle with my hair as I'm going through perimenopause. I think the difference in curl pattern is kind of happening as kind of a response to the various changes in hormones as I go along. I don't really know for sure because, again, I am not a medical professional and I can't really say that that's what it is, but it's highly likely because my hair definitely went through a bunch of different changes throughout my life. With my 3 pregnancies, my hair did something different with each pregnancy, and what it did after each pregnancy was a little bit different. So my hair definitely makes some changes according to hormones. And if you're noticing some differences in your curl patterns and you are perimenopausal or menopausal, it's probably because of that. For those of you who are out there that started with straight hair and you now all of a sudden have wavy and curly hair and you have no clue what to do with it, you are in the right place. I have a lot of videos on how to care for wavy and curly hair, and you can start with my hair care basics playlist and go from there. Another good one to check out is my Shop My Stash Curly combo videos, where I choose my products for wash day on camera. I explain the reasons why I'm combining the products that I'm combining and why I'm choosing what I'm choosing, so that you can take this knowledge and apply it to your own hair and your own products that you have and figure out how to put it all together for a wash day that's going to work for you. And for those of you who already have wavy or curly hair and you're just noticing differences in your patterns, then you might want to tweak your wash day routines a little bit here and there. I wouldn't say that you would have to go completely all out and buy different products, because you don't really choose your products based on your curl pattern. You choose your products, especially your styling products, according to the results that you're trying to achieve. So if you're looking for lots of volume, that's going to be a different set of products than if you're looking for lots of definition and for a lot of hold. Those are going to be different products. Definition is going to kind of rob you of volume. And then you also choose your products according to your hair's texture. So if it's fine, you're going to want stuff that's lighter weight, says volumizing, says lightweight, says weightless, those types of things, whatever they say on the packaging that sounds like it's lightweight, that would be a good thing for you. And for those of us with coarser hair, we can handle a little bit more heaviness to our products, but not always, because if you have slippery hair like mine, it could potentially get over conditioned very easily as well, especially if it's overall pretty healthy. You really don't need a lot of all of that moisture and heavy type products, so you may not want to go that route. But as far as styling products, we can handle a bit heavier type products on our hair than our fine-haired friends. But if you feel you need to make some kind of changes according to what's going on with your hair, then definitely do so. However, I would recommend maybe just switching out one product here or there, because you may not need to start completely over with a whole new set of products. Switching out one thing, adding in one thing, taking something out, swapping things out might be all you need to do, so that you don't have to blow your budget on a whole new set of products for your hair. And then for those of you who are going from straight hair to curly hair or straight hair to wavy hair, you're definitely going to want to have to change how you're styling your hair first and foremost. You can't treat it like straight hair anymore. It's not going to behave like that. However, as far as products go, you don't have to buy products for curly hair only. Products that don't specifically say they're for curly hair will work just fine on curly hair. It's something I talk about in some of my other videos and whenever I get the chance, that the biggest difference between curly hair products and not curly hair products is mostly the marketing. Now, a lot of curly hair products are on the more moisturizing end of things, because a lot of people with curly hair do have drier hair, which is why I recommend for my really fine, easily weighed down curlies to skip some of the curly hair products and stick with the volumizing type products or the lightweight type products versus the stuff made for curly hair, which might be just a little too over conditioning for some of the finer and healthier and more easily weighed down hair. So again, even if you're going from straight hair to curly hair, don't feel like you have to go out and buy a whole new set of products. You might be able to work with what you have, or maybe just add in a couple of extra things or one extra thing, or swap a couple of things out. But it's not going to be a whole bunch of products that you're going to need to go out and completely buy everything that there is. Just start small. Moving on to the next one, you could notice a difference in the dryness of your scalp and then also the dryness of your hair, one or the other, or both. You could wind up with both. That, I think that's one of the common things that happens during perimenopause and menopause is your skin overall gets drier, your scalp is skin, so it could potentially get drier. Again, this is not one that I am struggling with. I am just as oily as what I was when I was 16 years old. I really wouldn't mind being a little less oily, to be quite honest. I mean, you can already see I'm dewy. I'm dewy, and I just powdered a little bit ago. So this is definitely not something that I am having to struggle with, but I do know quite a few people and saw a lot of my clients that kind of went through this as well, that their scalp got a lot drier and then also their hair got a lot drier, more brittle, it broke easily. So this is something that you are going to want to change out your shampoos for your scalp so that you can get something that's a little less harsh for your scalp and doesn't strip absolutely everything out of it. Plus, you don't want it really stripping your hair either. So you're gonna wanna go with something a little bit gentler, a little bit more moisturizing. A really good one for anybody who struggles with this, I have to say, is the Ouidad Nourishing Oil Shampoo. I think that's what it's, I'll put it up here somewhere because I can't remember the exact name of it. So I'll put it on the screen just so that you can get it. But it is quite possibly the most moisturizing shampoo I have ever tried. I don't use it very frequently because I just don't need all of that moisture, but you can almost detangle your hair with it. It's got so much slip and is so gentle, and yet it cleanses the scalp so well. And it also cleanses your hair. So everything feels nice and clean, but nowhere near stripped. So I highly recommend that if you're one of the ones who's really struggling with dry scalp or dry hair or both. And then another thing that you're gonna wanna do is definitely up the moisture content in your conditioner. And all conditioners are gonna have some level of moisture in there because that is a conditioner's job, is to put some moisture into your hair and to condition it and to make it nice and soft and supple. So all conditioners will have that. They will just have varying amounts. Some are a little bit lighter, some are a little bit more moisturizing and more heavy. And then there are some that have protein in them, some that don't. So you will have to find what you need for your hair. If your hair is really dry and brittle and is breaking very easily, I definitely recommend getting something that has protein because your hair is gonna need that little extra bit of strength. But also you do need some moisture because you don't wanna have just protein on your hair if it's already kind of breaking. You wanna make sure that you have moisture as well. The protein moisture balance in hair is not about one balancing out the other. It's finding the correct balance of the two for your hair because everybody's hair needs a little of both. So it's just a matter of finding that sweet spot where you have enough moisture to make your hair nice and soft and supple and less brittle, but then also to give it enough strength from the protein so that it doesn't break as easily and is less fragile. It gives it a little bit of strength, and also it helps to maintain the strength and structure of your hair so that you can actually hold on to the moisture that you're putting in there. And you might also want to look into getting some masks or deep conditioners. Now, in the curly community, a lot of times people will recommend deep conditioning once a week. I am not one of those people. Not everybody needs to deep condition once a week. I rarely deep condition my hair. I can go for months without deep conditioning my hair. My hair is overall really healthy, and if I deep condition it, it just gets even softer and slipperier and does even less. It just gets way over conditioned and doesn't do anything. So I do not need to deep condition on a regular basis at all, but there are some people who do. And if your hair has gotten a lot drier, your scalp is a lot drier, you might be one of those people who really needs to add that in there and to be adding in a mask or deep conditioner, something like that. As far as the frequency of that, that's really going to depend on kind of how your hair is feeling. There is no just guideline to once a week or once a month. Everybody's hair is different. So it's really going to be what you find is the sweet spot for your hair so that it is nicely moisturized, it is soft, it feels strong, but yet you're not way over conditioning it to where it's way down, it's too soft, it doesn't hold a curl, it's really frizzy and blown out, which is what can happen when your hair is over conditioned. So it's a matter of just trying to find something that is going to leave your hair soft, shiny, healthy looking, but not over conditioned. For the last one, we are going to talk about hot flashes. Now, how does hot flashes affect your hair? Well, they make you sweat. Sweat equals moisture, curly hair, wavy hair, creates frizz, does weird things. Also, it can make it really hard to dry your hair if you're sweating and it's re-wetting your hair. And I actually had this happen on more than one occasion with clients that were having a hot flash in my hair because I had the hot blow dryer on their hair. And as I was drying their hair, it was getting re-wet by the sweat, like just as wet as what it was before I even started drying it. And it just kept getting wet and wet, and it wouldn't dry. As I was drying it, it got wet with sweat. So at some point we basically just had to call it, and my clients went home with wet hair, unfortunately, but there really was nothing that we could do because that heat with their hot flash just was not a good combination, and we were getting absolutely nowhere. Now, what can you do about having a hot flash when you're trying to dry your hair? One of the things that I suggest is actually to dry your hair while sitting under a ceiling fan or near a fan or something like that. I happen to have a ceiling fan right up here. I actually had to just turn it on recently because I started to get a little warm and even more dewy than what I've already been because of oil. I was starting to sweat and just become a sweaty greaseball mess. So I turned on the ceiling fan, and I have a tendency to dry my hair out here in my living room underneath my ceiling fan so that it can keep me cool while I have my diffuser going. I do use heat when I diffuse my hair. I'm not worried about it damaging because of how I diffuse my hair. And if you want to know how to diffuse your hair without causing any kind of heat damage, I will put a card up here to that video so you can see how I do that. But getting back to how to mitigate sweat issues when drying, definitely recommend using a ceiling fan, but also you can use a cooler setting on your dryer versus putting it on heat. I put mine on high heat because I want to get it dry really fast. And that is kind of how I mitigate that a little bit, is that the faster I get it done, the faster I can just sit underneath the fan and let it cool me back off again. So that's the route that I take. That might not be a route that you can take. So you might want to put your dryer on a cooler setting versus putting it on high heat, and maybe just drying it part of the way and letting it air dry part of the way. Whatever it is that makes you most comfortable, I would definitely suggest doing that. Ordinarily, I don't recommend just air drying your hair because you have very little control over how it's going to end up, because as it's sitting here wet and you're moving around and going about your day, it's going to create a lot of frizz. But if you absolutely cannot stand that heat on, and trust me, I get it, I completely get it, then by all means, let your hair air dry. Maybe start it to dry, but go ahead and let it air dry. Or again, sit in front of a fan or underneath a ceiling fan and let that help your hair dry. Or you can use the blowers in your car to blow it at you to cool you off, and also to help dry your hair while you're driving to wherever you need to go. So that is what you can do as you're trying to get your hair dry. But what to do once your hair is dry and it's hanging down and it's really hot and your hair itself is kind of causing some of these hot flashes, or at least making them a heck of a lot worse. What then? Well, I suggest putting it up. And I do have a couple of videos showing cute hairstyles to do that are very quick, very easy. Most of them use claw clips, so they are also very low tension and aren't going to be pulling on your hair, which can cause traction alopecia. So it's very gentle on both your scalp and your hair, so it's not pulling your hair out of your scalp or causing any kind of breakage. So I do have those videos, and I can't remember, I think it's in this playlist. I'll probably put the playlist right up here somewhere so that you can go check those out and just start wearing some cute styles to help you get through that, or at least put your hair up quickly while you're going through that, and then you can kind of let it down, and the sweat that's in your hair, as gross as that sounds, is going to kind of help reactivate some of the products that you already have in there. So as long as you take it down while your hair still is damp, that dampness will reactivate the products and your hair can kind of dry back into a more curly or wavy state versus being stretched out from being pulled up. So you can go back and forth like that throughout the day. Or if you're anything like me, you can just toss it up and just leave it there. Especially now in the summertime with it being really hot out, I just prefer to leave my hair up. It's one of the reasons why I've been doing a more lazy routine this summer, partially because of the heat of summer, partially because I've just gotten lazy with my hair lately, and also because I know I'm gonna just put it up anyway, so I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time and energy into my hair just to throw it up a couple hours later. And we've come to the end of my knowledge and my tips for how to mitigate some of these issues. It is my understanding that if you get on hormone replacement therapy, that a lot of these things are going to be solved because you're replacing the hormones that you're losing. So it just kind of stops all of this, or at least that is my understanding. Again, this is way outside my field. Hormone replacement therapy definitely lands within the medical field, which I said I am not a part of. I cannot give medical advice. However, there is a medical doctor that I found on social media, I believe on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll probably put her name on screen somewhere so that you can find her. So she would be a great source of information so you can learn about all of these other medical things and a lot of the things that I can't talk about because I only know hair. I can tell you how to work with your hair, but I can't tell you about any of the other things that are part of the medical part of it. And hopefully you found this video helpful. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.